Well, welcome to the Blue Room post-match reaction for Aston Villa 2, Everton 1. Bit of a disappointing game all round. Everton sort of came alive in the last 10 minutes, but I think it sort of showed all the problems with the current team and the current transfer window goings on. I think it was all sort of laid bare today, as it was a bit last week. I am joined to pick the bones out of that defeat by Dave Downey. Dave, just a high-level thing, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, we said just before we started there, I'd say, if I'm being kind, I'd say 70-80% of that game. I don't think Everton stood a chance of getting a result immediately after going 1-0 down. It become quite frantic, and had we seen what had happened in the last 10 minutes bear fruit, I don't know, for the entire second half, I'd be quite convinced Everton would have got a result from that game. And you know, you could probably, there's an argument to say we could have well got a point away from that there towards the end, and Rondon throwing his feet at it when Chambers just about saves them getting one. I thought some of the behaviour from Villa and the players towards the end was embarrassing, really. But that's what clubs do these days. We do that if we were 2-1 up and trying to get to a final whistle. I'm not saying it's understandable. It frustrates the hell out of you, doesn't it, when it's not you? But
yeah, I think
you know, when you've got Martinez there just throwing himself on the floor, even catching the ball. He had one of the physios ran on the pitch while the game was still going on as well.
Well, I think just like to quickly pick up on that. So this 5 substitutes rule, I can't see anything that's positive about it. So last week you've got teams like Liverpool and City who've got really good squads throwing on 5 subs to completely change the game in their favour.
Yeah,
that's what they can do.
Yeah. Well, this is the argument. I think, like you say, sorry to interrupt you, but I think we've had this discussion and debate quite a few times on different occasions about how much those 5 sub rules is going to be basically handing certain games in a plate to the bigger teams, the bigger squads in the Premier League. And I can't for the life of me work out how some people think it gives an advantage to lesser sides. And sadly, right now, these days, we're the lesser sides. It doesn't help us whatsoever, I don't think, anyway.
No, but this is the thing I thought today. This is how the lesser sides like us and Villa will use it to our advantage. Not against the big teams. You'll probably just have us blown out the water by then, the big squads. It's situations whereby there's 5 minutes to go. They were hanging on at that point.
Yeah.
Actually pretty much falling out of them once we scored. And then they can just really use that, eat up a load of that 5 minutes, going down with cramp, bringing substitutes on. If they've used 2 subs during the game, they can do another 3 in that injury time. And there's no way the referee is playing the full 5 minutes there for 3 subs.
Well, I think that's how these teams are going to use it. You're absolutely spot on there, but you know, even on the other side of that, which goes against Everton, in that they're allowed to use those subs, I think then the whole situation goes into the hands of the referee and officials. Because if you're making, what did they make? 2 subs after the 90 started. We'd made subs after 5 minutes added on was given. Then we had the rigmaroles and the silly things happening with players falling down on the floor. Like I said, physio runs on for Villa. You had Matty Cash was pissing around as well. You had that. You had the goal. All of that. Now, did the rules not say it? You meant to have a minute on with a pair sub? And is it 30 seconds when a goal's happened as well? Or is it a minute when a goal happened, or 30 seconds? The other way around, basically. Now, they put 5 minutes added on. Obviously, that was given out on 90 before anything else had happened. And then he blows the final whistle on 98. So he's thought it's any right to add 3 minutes on to that load of shite that happened after 90. I think that's embarrassing from the chief official, effectively, in the Premier League, Michael Oliver, who's well, I don't think he's a particularly bad referee compared to the rest of them, but he's meant to be a really top referee because he's going to be the one that goes to the World Cup. He's the one that we always throw in the big games. How on earth that he comes to that? I don't know if that happens. It's pure home bias as well, isn't it? That's pure.
100%, yeah.
Villa are screaming. You've got Gerrard and Gary McAllister going off their heads at the side and all that. And look, I don't think it's right for us in the post match pod to make up an excuse as much as we're moaning about this.
Yeah.
But I think it's only right that it needs to be mentioned.
Yeah, no. Well, that's what I was going to say next. It was like, that was frustrating.
Yeah.
But we'll probably do it ourselves at some point this season. But we pretty much already more or less lost the game anyway by then. Just through, I think through obviously having no sort of focal point up front. I mean, that's just a massive hole in the team there. And I think, the thinking was from a lot of people, maybe just start Rondon because he gives us a focal point, which he does. But when he came on, he didn't really make much difference. And I think that one chance he had at the end where Mings just got in ahead of him, he was so slow to react to that. If he's a tiny bit quicker, he slots that in for 2-2. But, Rondon's not the answer. Maybe he would have made a difference up front as a focal point. But I think this game sort of, as you said last week with Chelsea, that was a much harder game. And we lost that by a very narrow margin, just a penalty at the end of the first half. This was more there for the taking because Villa are on a good side. They're no better than us, really. They just had the focal point in Ings and Watkins. Whereas those three lads up front today, once again, there's just nothing there, is there? There's nothing there with the three of them that says they can play in any sort of a front three together because they're all really quite similar. And there's no big fella there, basically, is there? But then the flip side of that is Rondon the answer to that? I don't know. It's a tough one. What do you think? What do you want to see going into that game? Do you want to see Rondon start or?
I think saying want. I think it's such a complicated thing. It's for the sake of the only one we have really. The other one I'd probably look at ahead of that is Dele Alli, because he's a tall lad, isn't he? He's certainly quicker than Rondon too, and I think physically he can move himself about. But when he come on as well, we did look a little bit different. And then, it does lead you to say, I mean, I've said it on Twitter, maybe it's a Jeff reaction from what I said, but I thought, had we made these decisions a little, say, maybe 10, 15 earlier, so say 75 minutes rather than 80 odd, then we might well have got a point from this. We certainly would have created a couple of more chances, I thought, because they started to sit a little bit deeper. The initial problem I had, Les, with the whole game was, yes, that front three, probably right up the top of my list of things that just simply don't work at this football club. How we go about changing that without a striker. Look, the elephant in the room is always going to be consistently until the 1st, 2nd of September when the window closes, that we do not have an additional striker other than when DCL comes back and Rondon, who, let's face it, is not a Premier League level striker. He's just a shape up there for you that you need to throw a ball to. That's all he was. He come in and look, the irony was when he flicked one on, Dele Alli very nearly gets to it, and then who is it that slides in at the back? Was it Gordon? Somebody slid in right at the back and they tipped it out for a corner.
Oh yeah.
That sort of thing. But then you're looking on like the odd chance or two. You're looking on like such an obvious thing to do up against Mings as well. You're not putting Rondon on against smaller defenders. You put them on against somebody similar to his size. It's just going to be 50-50 constantly with him. So
it's just dead one-dimensional, isn't it?
Yeah, really, exactly.
It's easy to defend against, really. If you've got a big lad at the back, it's so easy.
And it's I think we made a lot of really basic mistakes. The five at the back, I mean, look, Cody's been in for what, less than a week. Tarkovsky's only been in since the start of the season, and obviously Holgate. That initial three centre backs haven't played with each other yet, so I think you need to allow a little bit of a leeway between kicking off about it, because it didn't go well. That's the simple thing I saw. The caveat is, the positive caveat is that I think at certain points, certainly until Ings scored, we looked quite comfortable at the back. I think when it's on the feet, you can see it from a mile off. I think when Cody gets it at his feet, when Tarkovsky gets it at his feet, and even when Olga gets it at his feet, they are constantly looking for that long diagonal. They're constantly looking for that sort of direct ball up front. That makes sense. This word ironically, if you've got Rondon on, that makes sense then to nail that ball forward. That's where it works. That's where it gets you 50, 60 yards further up the pitch. And then you can look at somebody like Gordon, Gray, who I thought was anonymous, sadly. McNeil, I thought was anonymous as well. It looks at them getting the ball off it and then trying to whip one in for whoever it is playing at centre forward, if it is Rondon. And that's why the front three doesn't work in turn. So I'd like to have been a fly on the wall. I know we're never privy to these things, but when Lampard and Paul Clement and the rest of the team are looking at what the starting 11 is going to be for the next game when they're working at Finch Farm in the middle of the week, I'm wondering what they've seen from that looks like it being any better than what we actually saw, because it was quite poor in my opinion. And do you know what I thought? You mentioned there about Villa at the start. I think we'll be in and amongst Villa, whatever they do this season. I think, Everton and Aston Villa won't be far apart in the league.
Yeah.
Come 9-10 months down the line, whenever it is. So that makes me feel like, haven't we got anything else we can look at? And in turn, it makes you, I think, for many of our fans and many of our listeners will be absolutely fuming that the board haven't gone and got a striker. They haven't gone and sorted this out. I think it's criminal that we haven't, especially not only in needing one essentially anyway, but as soon as we found out about Calvert-Lewin, they've had a certain amount of time to try and get somebody, then still haven't done that. So that's why we're starting backwards. That's why I think Matt put on Twitter, and I jokingly said, we've still got 35 other games on top of Forest when we play them next week, because he was saying it's crucial that we go and get a centre forward in Forest and beat them. It's imperative that we do that. I was like, steady on, calm down a little bit, Matt. We've got 35 games after it, but he's absolutely right, isn't he? That at the bottom of the ladder, But yeah, they were the main 2 points that I took from that first half. Front three, I'd be hesitant to call them a front three. They were wide attacking midfielders that have never played much together or as front strikers, and it looked like Gray was in the middle of the three. Again, like I say, he was anonymous. There was that, and then midfield wise, when they scored the goal, I was bemoaning Decore, but it turns out he had an injury, didn't he? And then he goes off. Tom Davis got brought on as well. I mean, that to me suggests that Onana simply wasn't completely match fit, as exciting as he was when he came on for the last 10 or so.
Yeah, what I think that showed is, though, when he came on, I think it showed he's definitely not that defensive midfielder. I think he takes on the Decore role right there.
In front of the, you bang him in between a central midfield, and you could play him at 10, I think.
Well, the thing for me with the first half, just to sort of pick up on the sort of the way you say the balance of the back three or the back five, it does look like it's got a nice balance. That does look like a balanced part of the side, and they all look pretty comfortable in those positions. Then Mason Holgate deserves a lot of credit from the end of last season as well. He's kind of carried it on this season. I think he's fine. And it has got a good balance, that defence now. I thought Patterson was good going forward. Mikalenko,
Patterson really good.
They're two good fullbacks. It looks good, but I think it disrupts the balance of the rest of the team. We've not got midfielders who can play in a two, and we've not had midfielders who can play in a two for years. I think Decore and Iwobi, it's not going to work. I'm like the Tom Davis fan club anyway. But I think when Tom Davis came on, apart from maybe one misplaced pass, I thought he did really well. And he brings...
When he got the yellow as well, it limited what he was allowed to do, really, didn't it, Les?
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But he's thinking, he was sat just in that sort of sixth position, just ahead of Iwobi, and he was making decent tackles, he was getting the ball, he was playing it simple, he was playing it forward. And it's like, that's kind of all you want in that position. And I think it looked much better balance. I don't like I've said this before. I don't like the two in the middle because we've got players to play that. I think it looked more balanced when he came on. Because as you say, Decore, he's more of an attacking player than that sort of sitting midfielder. And then I say the three up front, there's no balance there whatsoever. And I don't think it was any sort of coincidence that when I think we did end up with a 4-3-3, didn't we? I think it was Iwobi, Onana and Davis playing in a midfield three. Suddenly, although we looked a little bit vulnerable at the back at first, because we got cut open, didn't we? And Pickford made that good save because there was four at the back and they were a little bit sixes and sevens when they broke. We looked much better going forward. So it feels to me like we've kind of got a bit of a trade-off now. Do we have the defensive solidity but looking like we're never going to score a goal? Or take a bit of risk with the back four with the hope of maybe getting a goal? Because we could have scored 2 or 3 goals at the end there. We absolutely had them against the wall at the end of that game, and we were pretty relentless in our attacking, which we'd not done for the previous 80 minutes. as you say, it was probably a little bit too late from Lampard. He should have made the change sooner. But I think for me, that kind of showed where the problem is with the team. We look quite defensively solid, but always culpable to concede the goal, which was a very good goal from Danny Ings. And it's the one he always scores against us, doesn't he? That's 4 different clubs now. And he always does. It was a very, very good goal. Just a little bit of hesitancy in the defence, but it was a cracking finish and good awareness from him. So can't have any complaints about that, really.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you're playing to just be defensive and not concede, there is always a chance that there can just be a little break, little bit more quality for their attackers, and they score. And then suddenly you're left with this. You're chasing the game, but you've got nothing to chase it with. So I think that's the worry for me now, that we've got like 2 sort of different setups that don't work together. We've got the 5 at the back, which looks quite good, but then there's nothing up front. Or we can play the sort of 3 up front, or 3-1-2, whatever, but leave ourselves a little bit short at the back. I've probably waffled on a little bit too long about that.
No.
That's sort of where my head's at with it now after watching that game.
No, I completely take your point there, and it would have been interesting to see had we made it. It's nice in a way to feel that we will have that versatility should we be able to place it when we need to, rather than it being we have to forcibly do it when we've gone a goal down, if you get what I mean. So if that's going to a game, if say they didn't score that first goal, we went 0-0 to 70, 80 minutes. I think you look at that match, and if you're Frank Lampard, you're probably not going to make the change that gives you that freedom up front. You stay where you are, and you think, you know what, we'll take 0-0, lads. If we get a corner and bag a lucky one at the end, that's the way I think we should be looking at things. In this particular, well, say until the window's closed and see what we've got after that. But also the season, we need to be solid more than we need to be attacking and open. And it's a sad enough thing to say, because essentially it's what many people will say, it's boring football, where we bore people to the life of it. But that's the way Everton have to be at the start, because of the lack of potent goal scorers up front. And the point that we haven't even mentioned him yet. I know we'll have sort of a lengthy chat about Onana anyway, but with Iwobi, Alex Iwobi, I think it's been a fascinating journey that fella's had since he joined Everton Football Club. Not only up to the end of last season, not only up to what is in everybody's mind still, the Newcastle game when he scores that winner, but he's such a reliable player for us now. I think when I watched that 11, every time I see him on the ball, it was the same against Chelsea last week. And do you know what I think that not many people talk about with him is, it's not just with attacking threats in games. I actually trust him when he's on the ball.
Yeah.
I think his passing game has improved tenfold. I see him running everywhere. I was just looking at the stats then, literally just before we started on BT. He ran the most out of the entire both teams. You can see him doing everything he can, and I think he's got a real bit between his teeth now. And at a comfortable stage of his career where you're not sitting there thinking, we need this fella to prove himself by beating 5 or 6 players and scoring a goal or an assist. I'm looking at him now, seeing it we're able to put trust on his shoulders, dare I say it. Next week he'll probably score an own goal and cost us the game. But do you get what I mean, though, Les? Saying
100%.
That, I think he looks like a completely different person to me when I watch him.
I've not seen a turnaround in a player like that, I don't think, since Barry Orne.
I'm not sure who you read about that, though, Les, as well. I don't. It's like, it's just him, really, isn't it? Because I'm thinking, well, yes, it'd be nice to just say, oh yeah, Lampard sorts them out, but I mean, I think it'd be too simple just to say that. I think that lad himself there, I'd love to have a chat with him, or even hear it, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
There was some maybe sort of a sort of mental health type of thing, something that he'd done away from the game, where you think that has been where he's just everything's dropped in his head and he just gets it.
I think a lot of things sort of fell into place for his game to develop to where it is now. So he was. I think he played 1 game as a 10 for us. But every other time he played, he'd been out wide, and every time he played out wide, he ran across the pitch. And it's like, so when you see a wide player doing that, you think they're definitely not a wide player. They're a central player. If their first instinct is to run inside, they're not a wide player. Unless you like you want, like you're in a three and you cut inside. But by and large, if you're playing out wide, your first instinct shouldn't be to run across the pitch. It's like if I was when I used to play fullback, if I got played in the middle, I'd drift out wide because that's where you play. And he always went inside, and he was never a wide player. So I think he stopped getting played in that position. Lampard obviously did something in training with him, and maybe got his head together a bit. Said he trusts him a bit more. Don't be worrying. And the fans stopped. So I don't think we particularly got on his back, but there was definitely the groan, wasn't there? There was the Goodison groan when something went
yeah.
like
I mean, there were people who wanted them.
And that stopped because we could see he was working hard and he was trying to change his game. And I think, as you say, it's a lot on him. It would be dead easy to say, "Oh, Frank Lampard's changed this lad," but he's done it himself as well. And I think he's had the happy accident of being played in the middle more than being played out wide. Or maybe not a happy accident. Maybe Lampard's looked at it and gone, "Yeah, you're definitely not a wide player," and switched it for him. But whatever it is, he's been our best player the last 2 games. And as you say, it's like you don't look at him on the pitch now and think, "Oh shit, there's a mistake in there." He just looks very, very comfortable. He'll do that. He'll come short. He'll get the ball. He'll just knock a nice, neat pass out wide. He will be that sort of fulcrum for the team. Only where the ball comes into him, he just pops it off easy. But he's got that thing where he can burst forward as well. He's looking really good in that position. You kind of think if we can get someone to complement him, because I don't think Alan or Decore are the answer. I'm going to say it's Tom Davis because but I think they look much better as a two than anything we've seen. I wouldn't play a two personally, but I think of anything we've seen, they look better as a two.
Well,
it's been a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a food for thought. I think it's something we'll all look at as fans. Something we'll talk about a hell of a lot towards our next game and throughout the post matches as our games crack on throughout the season and whatnot. But the immediate thought, I think, to many will say, well, Onana and Iwobi, there's some sort of, not necessarily a partnership there, but an understanding between the both of them. But I think what you said there was so spot on there. What I think he makes a nightmare, he makes a real headache of the opposition, because when he receives the ball, he's not only what we paid for initially, get him to drive with the ball, get him to sprint and dribble with the ball. That was the simple thing I think he was bought for. Yeah. When you think back to when we paid a lot of money for him, and then people think that was all because we didn't get Zaha. That's the immediate thing that I think comes to many people's minds if they've not watched him too much, would be, oh, he's just a lad who's a bit of a flop because you didn't sign Zaha. And let's face it, I think all of us have thought that at some point when he first came in the first few. But now when I watch him get the ball, I think if you were like, when he did sort of drift to the right side of midfield, not to the right wing, I don't think he was at any point in the wing. When he sort of drifted towards either full-back position, I think Luca Deans looked at him and thought, fuck this. Because he's faster than him, he's more powerful than him. I think the other side of it was Matty Cash. I think I was a big fan of Matty Cash before today because he looked like a bit of a bellend. But in general, I actually like Matty Cash as a right back. I think he's one that I would have been interested in us going for it had we not got Patterson last season. But when you look at Iwobi, I think he backs people off. He gets people running backwards, and that's something that's not always been a simple thing for us to be able to do in recent seasons, certainly in the Macheri era in general. So that again, like, look towards the end of the day, looking more at positives, and then the man himself comes on. I think 82, 83 strolls on. He's a big boy.
Oh, when he was stuck next to Delhi, he was not a little fella himself.
Delhi's 6'4" himself. Delhi's 6'3", 6'4" himself.
Yeah, he's massive.
He's massive. He's got some of the longest legs I've ever seen as well, by the way. And like when it was when Rondon nearly scores there, I was thinking if that was him, he'd either got his legs ahead of Mings, Chambers, sorry. But when he come on, instant Premier League sort of start debut, wasn't it? When he loses the ball and typically they go on and score and effectively make the game over. What I really liked in sort of the cameo appearance from him, Les, was the fact that immediately when the game started again, he wanted the ball straight away. And we go up there and get one back because of him. The run is outstanding. The little shimmy he does on the line. and then drags it back, and Dean puts it in by mistake for the own goal. That, to me, really got me off the edge of my seat. Not because we were simply trying to get a point still remaining in the game, but I looked at him and thought, hang on, have we actually spent 30-odd million quid on a player that's actually worth it? And he looked it. And I loved his attitude as well, because when the goal goes in, the Everton fans obviously start singing his name. He just puts his hands up towards them, acknowledges them. I'm really excited about this fella, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to typically go with I need to be cautious about saying that, because never really works out with Everton the way we know it. But I'm going to put my neck on the line. I think this lad is going to be top class for us.
If you can't,
and I think he'll start next week too.
What's that? Sorry.
I think he'll start next week too.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, but if you can't be excited about him now, what's the point in all this?
Yeah,
because he's come on and he's made an instant impact. And yeah, we should be rightly excited about it. This is a player David Moyes was after at West Ham, and a lot of people have said the good job that David Moyes has done at West Ham, because he's getting players in, they fit in the system, character-wise, they fit in the team, basically doing what he did at Everton. So if he wanted this player, he's obviously done a lot of work on this player. For Moyes to bid for a player, he really wants him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He doesn't throw out a spurious bid. So he's tracked this player, he's looked at him. The fact that we've got him ahead of him, we've definitely got a good player there, a really good player. We just need to play him in the right position, which, as I said, I think it's not in that sort of defensive midfield position, because he just looks like he's going to be a handful going forward. And yeah, I think the fact that he came on for the last 10 minutes kind of does give a nod to, okay, yeah, he's ready. He's going to come in next week, because he's not made that many starts last season, has he? I think it was about 20 games or 20 starts he made last season. So, but it looks like, having come on and made that impact, it looks like I fancy him to start next week. Player who might not start next week is Connor Cody. Don't know if he's injured, but if he's injured, it will be the most Everton thing ever. Yeah. That a fella who's not been injured for 6 seasons or something plays 60 minutes for the Toffees and does his leg in.
It looked. I mean, when it first happens, because we give the ball away typically, and the shot comes in.
There was a lot of that today, wasn't there?
There was. Yeah, it was. I was, and at times I looked at it and thought, this could go to silly scores of like 3, 4, 5. If you're looking at them getting the ball back in ridiculous areas just in front of our, in front of our back 18-yard box. But when that happens, it gets pinged, and I mean pinged. It gets hit so hard. Yeah. It's the middle of his head, and immediately when that happens, because the ball goes dead high in the air, I'm thinking, yeah, that's as someone who knows head injuries at this moment in time, Les. I was watching it and thinking, could be a little bit of concussion right there, but nonetheless, it wasn't that. It was because of the way he fell back.
Yeah,
and it was onto it. It looked like his ankle. And Lucy Ward, who was commentating with Dan and Fletcher, she was saying he's not going to go off easily, this fella. And I looked and I thought immediately that's a substitution, given the type of character he is, and probably a lot of the reason why we've bought him is as that character, as a leader, as somebody who you would happily throw the captain's armband to. He stayed on the pitch and saw it off the whole game. I think the bad side of that for many people who are like that, who you absolutely love, is you're making things worse for yourself injury wise if you haven't gone off. And I really hope that's not the case. It looked like his ankle. He was still running about at the end, but when that stiffens up this afternoon, he's 29 years old. You can imagine him getting off the coach when he gets back tonight and needing his missus to pick him up rather than be driving home himself.
I reckon, yeah. But I'm happy overall with him and Tarkovsky. Look like two players who make it.
The only thing, Les, just before that point, we were talking about their first goal that he scored. The only criticism I had of Tarkovsky and Mikalenko, I think, wasn't his best game today for us either, was when they came drifted in from that right-hand side. I don't know if it was Watkins who had the ball. When he runs in, he was able to run like 10, 15 yards towards the edge, but nobody had gone out to him.
They were attacking quite a bit down that side at that point, weren't they, as well?
Yeah, and I think Mikalenko, like I said, I'm not criticising him. It wasn't one of his best games, but he certainly wasn't completely awful. But that side of the pitch, you could tell that was where Gerrard or whoever at their side of things thought that's somewhere that's going to be quite fruitful for us today. and the way they end up scoring a goal, it's a fantastic finish. I blamed 3 players basically at the time. It was Mikalenko, Tarkowski for not sprinting out there, and Decore, because and I don't know whether it was because he was injured just before it, which is sort of then he gets the benefit of the doubt, I think. But when Ings lets the ball roll across him, Decore looked so slow at getting with him, because I'm thinking when he's done that, you can step right across him then, and you're not going to give away a penalty. He might well go down, but you physically won the battle. And then obviously Cozy and everyone else has thrown themselves to the floor trying to stop the shot. He absolutely pings it, and it's a really good finish. Pickford had no chance. But yeah, and also on the side of Decore, bit of a rotten start to the season for him, giving away the pen last week, being part of that goal if he's injured as well, because he's still a really important player for us, certainly in the midfield, obviously. So yeah, that to me was such a killer, because I thought we were quite comfortable. Like the game was, it was. If you're watching it as a neutral, it was a boring watch, and I was more than happy for that to happen. So I was thinking,
well, that's it.
You go half hour there without
20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You go up to half hour with absolutely nothing happening in that game away from home. I'm more than happy there. Everton can grow from that.
Yeah, it was. It was a kick in the plums. As with the second goal as well. I think it got to about 70 odd minutes. I think it was before the substitutions had been made, and I thought this definitely finishes 2-0 to these. I mean, the plus point is I think we lose that game by more last season. I know it's impossible to say, but I do think we look like we've not got a collapse in us. Why am I saying stuff like this? But
yeah, I just seen you drinking a big bottle of wine, like.
Well, I'm on my third beer and my first glass of wine, so yeah. But I do feel like there is more character in this team now that we let stuff like that happen again. When Leon Bailey came on, I thought, Christ, he had half an hour. He had one good half an hour last season. Got man of the match and he beat us 3-0.
Pickford didn't have to make many saves. He had to make that one other save from Watkins.
There was nothing.
Nothing else for him to do.
That save from Watkins was really good, but there was nothing in it, was there? And it kind of shows, they had their strikers playing. We didn't. Yeah. And that makes a huge. I mean, as you say, there's been that quote from Mashiri, judges at the end of the transfer window, and it's like, well, we're going to be 5 games deep by then, with the derby being the 6th. So don't really want to be waiting that long.
What have we got here, Les? Just under 3 weeks to sort it out.
Exactly, and it's kind of this feels like a missed opportunity, as does last week, really, for Chelsea to come to Goodison on the opening day of the season and get the first win in 8 years or something stupid, just via a penalty, because there was really nothing else happened in the whole game.
No.
And then to lose this one when really nothing else happened apart from their sort of 2 breakaway goals, it's the worry that we've got. These first 5 fixtures aren't bad. It's not a bad opening to the season. And
what have we got? Is it Forest, then Brentford?
Yeah, Leeds.
Is it Leeds then? Yeah.
So it's not a bad first 5, and it's like we can't afford to be throwing points away in games we should be getting points out of, because we could and maybe should have got something out of that. Maybe if the manager had been a little bit more, earlier with his subs, maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe not. 2 things that may have made a difference. There was 2 potential penalty shouts. What did you make of the one on Holgate? Did you look at that for apparently?
People kick off on me telling me I'm far too negative as usual, but I have to say I don't think we deserved the penalty in that game. I don't think they were penalties.
No.
I've seen people absolutely kicking off for Mings as well, putting his arm across Gordon. I'm sorry, but all the Reds would love me saying this, but he did not need to go down at all. In fact, what I said was, I think he could have. He's that much quicker than Mings, who's not a fast player. I thought he could have actually dodged getting that arm and run around the side of him and get in behind him. I thought that was there for him to happen.
Yeah,
because that's what we love Gordon for. But obviously, many are going to say he thought it should have been a pen. Frank Lampard certainly did, didn't he? And the rest of the Everton bench did. But as I'm not trying to put a neutral hat on, but I don't think we should have earned a penalty.
No, I mean the thing is, other clubs might get them. Other clubs,
that's the other side of it. That goes back to what we started with the 5 sub rule and all that, tend to lean towards the bigger clubs.
Yeah,
I think
we need to get over that. It's a fact of life, isn't it? Like, we're
Yeah,
not at that point where
sadly.
we're going to get that decision. So let's not even worry about it.
Sadly so, mate. Sadly so. Because you honestly you're gonna head down a dark fucking place.
Yeah,
Then
it
if
will.
you're sitting there thinking about why Everton aren't getting decisions, well, let's focus on the club getting better and playing better and getting some better players in and whatnot. And Lampard doing a really good job. Because if you start going down the lines of why we didn't get certain decisions, which we know we're not going to get this year, then you had a fear for you. If that's the
Well,
case.
this is the thing, isn't it? This is where I think we've all got to hold our nerve. Because if you look at next week, just looking ahead to next week, it's Forest, newly promoted team. We've lost our first two, which is never ideal. And you kind of think, yeah, this is a bit of a must-win game with 3 games in.
Mm.
And you kind of think, yeah, but we can't get beat because then it starts getting a bit, oh, fuck's sake. But then again,
Yeah,
if you go into this with the same team with nothing up front, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
We
and
don't look like scoring. So,
the funny thing with that though, Les, is the fact that they've got a striker that we've reportedly been interested in Dennis. It looks like he's going to sign them. You look at the typical Everton-like stories. That might end up being one, but look, you sort of direct this towards the board and Trellwell and all them who look like you can see today. Just go out and get somebody who can score a goal, please, and then I think we'll be absolutely fine.
yeah, it is. It's not even a case of we can just like sort of sit tight and wait for Calvert-Lewin to come back because we just can't afford to not have a second striker now. Even if it's somebody who can, just come in and do that sort of standing role better than Rondon. Because I think I know a lot of people were saying he should have started up front and maybe should have done, but I think for the time he had on the pitch, he showed exactly today why he's not it. He's not gonna. It was that one that broke, like I said before, where Tyrone Mings just got in ahead of him. He should have been on his toes there, first to that, stab it in. Calvert-Lewin would have done.
Well, you bag a lot of other people in the team who aren't strikers to put that away, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, exactly. No, that's what he's there to do. He's there to to get on the end of those chances, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And he laboured when he came on. I'm sure he's a great fella, but he's just not. He's just, as you said before, he's not up to the job at Everton, is he?
No,
I don't think he's ever going to be. So yeah, I think that is definitely a priority for next week. Are any alarm bells ringing with you at the minute, or is it like have we shown enough signs of progress from like not this time last season because we were flying, but from the worst points of last season? Do you think there's enough progress there to say, no, we'll be sound? If we get strikers in, Calvert-Lewin comes back, we'll be all right.
I think I'm cautiously feeling that way that we're going to be okay. Not only that, I think obviously the way the crowd that we've all raved about, and rightly so, because I think all of us as fans did just as much as what the actual team did in making sure that we were still in this league this season. I think we're still going to see plenty of those days and nights at Goodison this season. The away record's an absolute stinker. It needs to get sorted. Today showed you a lot of the reasons why when we look so susceptible at times. But then other things that looked a lot more better, and we've had that relative positivity that we've spoken about, likes of Onana there, Wolby, Patterson at the side. You're looking at
Tom Davis, man.
Exactly, Davis comes on. We've got stuff there that makes me feel a lot more optimistic about this club than we did when Lampard initially came in.
Yeah,
and that we did when we looked like we weren't allowed to spend any money and whatnot until we let Richarlison go. And that's the other thing as well. The thing that I think as well is a funny little bit of a positive. I haven't watched these 2 games and thought, oh, look how badly we're missing Richarlison. And I think that's a positive tick towards Lampard and the rest of the squad. That I'm not sitting here thinking we would have won that game if Richarlison was there. I'm thinking if we'd have got results in either of these games, there were 2 games we've lost by 1 goal where we could have quite comfortably ended with at least a point in each of them, if not 3 in at least one of them. So, I'm not feeling as worried and sort of downtrodden as I have done in the past. And then look, I'm actually optimistic when we're playing Forest at home next week, because if we do what we normally do crowd wise, that could be really, really intimidating for the side that's just about got into the Premier League this season, the promoted side. We should be all over them from the start, trying to kick lumps out of them. Obviously not literally, but getting physically amongst them in terms of battles. You win that battle, you win your own personal battle, you'll do a promoted side that's only just come up for the first time in since 1997 or whatever it is. So I'm confident in next week, and I'm much more optimistic than I thought I'd be. I'm much more optimistic than many people who haven't listened or have only just listened to this podcast probably thought I'd be, having followed Everton lose 2 games to start with.
Yeah, what's happened to the real Dave Downey? Who's kidnapped him and who are you?
Well, this is it, mate. Yeah, like you, people know. Well, I'm assuming most people know. Certainly listeners would. About what's happened with me, health wise. I've had a seizure recently and all this sort of thing.
You've had a lot to shout about lately, mate. That's putting it mildly.
It's what, mate? Sorry.
You've not had a lot to be confident or like.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. So
I've
put a positive spin on the toffees is great.
Well, that's it, Les. I'd have had the most a reasonable excuse if I was saying I think we'll finish bottom, and I think Forest are going to beat us 4-0 next week. But absolutely not. No. It's going the other way round, and getting back to Goodison as well is going to be great. I just hope it isn't as hot as it is right now, mate, because that's what I don't know if anybody else is handling this better than I am, but the heat is ridiculous in this country right now. I think it goes back to normal on Monday, and I know everyone loves the sun and all that, but it's been extreme these last few days.
It's gonna be sound the weekend because we're off to Wales for a few days on Wednesday, and it's gonna piss down the whole time. So
yes, mate. The thing is, though, well, the real Dave's still here, because I absolutely love rain for some reason. I have no idea why, but I always love rain. So there we go. Unless I'm on a golf course.
Oh God, yes. I play. I'm shite at golf. I don't like golf and rubbish at it. I can't get my head around that, and I played it in the rain, and it was quite soul destroying. Quickly looking ahead to next week, Forest have got West Ham tomorrow at 2. Probably could do it. Moyes doing us a favour there, put them on a bit of a downer ahead of next week. But yeah, I think overall there's probably signs to still be positive because we're playing with a very iffy sort of midfield partnership there. It's like the midfield isn't settled at all. The striking positions, the front three is not settled at all. I'm still not sold on the 5-2-3. But I think there's enough signs there to say we're in a much better position than last season, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So we can go into this Forest game with a little bit of optimism at least.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah. So we'll have to build up to the Forest game. I'm sure Matt will do. He's not done a Forest preview before, has he?
No, it's a brand new one for him. I don't know whether we'll get on.
Yeah, so interested to see who he speaks to for that. So yeah, Matt will have that next week. We'll have all the
Van Hooijdonk, someone like that.
Yeah, all the usual.
Ron Atkinson.
Whoa.
Big Ron.
Oh my God.
Definitely won't be getting Big Ron on.
It was the manager when he went down? Was it Frank?
No, it was him, wasn't it? Was it Ron Atkinson? Oh, no, he'd gone before that, hadn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
Frank Clark. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Down. I think. I don't know. Me 90s memories are a bit sketchy there. But yeah, we'll have all the build up to that anyway next week. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell all your mates to subscribe because we're touching 3,000 subscribers. So do that. Subscribe on Patreon. Do all the usual stuff. Thanks to Dave. Thanks to the Toffees for a little fight back towards the end there that maybe gave us a little bit of hope that we may have something in attack after all. But yeah, try not to be too disheartened. Don't let the result ruin your weekend too much. Enjoy the sun, get out, have a beer, have a barbecue, do whatever you like. And we will catch you sometime next week on the Blue Room.